Hello?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
Welcome aboard Frank's Magic Bus. For the next 2 hours, Frank Welch takes you on a musical journey with some of the best deep tracks in classic rock history. You'll hear this week's featured artist and a whole lot more.
Woohoo! No, Kelly Clarkson!
Now, without further ado, Frank Welch.
Let's talk to Ray Manzarek. He is the keyboard player and probably the best spokesman ever of the Doors, and one of the best spokesmen really for classic rock. He and Jim Morrison, the singer of the Doors, were kind of film school students in L.A. They reconnected on the beach, and the rest was history. Turned into one of the most seminal classic rock bands ever, the Doors. In fact, Light My Fire, to me anyway, was the theme song of the entire Summer of Love in 1967. But in those days, the Doors kind of had this pact they made with each other that they're never going to sell their music for commercials, for TV commercials, and never make a profit off the music, which was everything to everybody back in those days with that generation, right? You do remember that, right? It was all about the music, which was inseparable from the anti-establishment politics of the time. And any one member of the Doors could veto the others if they wanted to try to make some money commercially off the Doors music. And John Densmore, the drummer, has opted to take that veto, and he refuses to allow any Doors music to be used on TV commercials or whatever to profit in that way, even to this day. That's why you don't see great Doors tunes on Ford or Chevy commercials or whatever. And we talked to Ray Manzarek about that. Listen, a lot's been made recently, especially, with your 21st Century Tour. I'm not going to call it a feud. I mean, you can call it what you want, what it is between John Densmore and the rest of you guys as far as him vetoing selling the Doors songs for profit and whatnot. In fact, he went to court to have you remove the Doors name from the tour.
Yeah.
How would you describe right now how you're getting along with John Densmore?
Fair to middling. Or as they say in Italian, men's are men's. Hey, what are you going to do, man? The guy's got his agenda, and he will carry it out, and his will prevail, and he found a judge that agreed with him. So Robbie and I can't use the name The Doors in any way, shape, or form. Nothing. We can't even be the Toilet Door.
Oh.
We've got to be some entirely different name. Otherwise, the audience will be confused, and they will think that Jim Morrison is going to be there.
Because
but that's the rationale they used. It was like, are you kidding me, man? Jim's been dead. Everybody knows he's dead. Nobody who's going to come to see Ray and Robbie is going to expect to see Jim Morrison.
Now, come on, Jim's been painting on the sidewalks of Paris all these years. Come on now.
And, well, he's doing that, but he's certainly not playing with us.
When you and Jim Morrison and John Densmore and Robbie Krieger came up with this pact way back in the day, the times were different, and the outlook and the attitudes towards selling your music commercially was different than in the late 60s and early 70s. Do you ever feel like maybe kind of shaking John by the shoulders and say, come on, man, we can sell our music but still not sell out?
Well, he can't make the distinction. He's doing it as a 60s thing. And, people have asked me, what would Jim say? I said, well, listen, Jim Morrison was not dumb. Jim Morrison would say, let's see, we don't have any hit singles because we're not playing. We don't, there's not a lot of classic rock radio. How do you get your songs out to a new public? Guess what? Television.
And you know what? The thing is, if you watch TV a lot, which I do, the greatest music used in car commercials or bank commercials or whatever is classic rock now.
Isn't it? I mean, I dig it. I mean, I don't understand John's attitude towards it. I was watching a football game a couple of years ago. Some beer commercial comes on. I don't know what the hell they're selling me. Muddy Waters is singing to me on my television. I'm a hoochie coochie man. I thought that was like the greatest thing. Muddy Waters on TV.
Oh.
I loved it,
I know that you had a real problem with Oliver Stone in the Doors movie. By the way, I thought the movie was great, and I think Kyle MacLachlan did a great job playing you. Now Kyle MacLachlan's playing in Desperate Housewives.
Yeah. Well, you go where the acting gigs are.
And he doesn't look anything like you now.
No, not anymore.
But do you think not only Oliver Stone's movie The Doors, but the myth over the years of Jim being the sloppy drunk is just overblown to the point where the guy is remembered for only really a small part of his daily life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the problem with the Stone movie, is that he took all the drunken episodes and put them back to back as if Jim was never normal, as if Jim was never funny. And he was a humorous guy. We had a lot of fun. We laughed. We created together. Somebody watched that movie, a friend of mine, and said, how'd you guys ever write those songs? It's impossible. You couldn't write songs like that with Morrison the way he was. I said, well, he wasn't like that. You know, when he was clean and sober, he was a great guy. When he was drunk, he was like the guy in the movie, and it was hard to deal with. But that wasn't all the time. That was, 10, 15, 20. It increased 25, 30, 35% of the time by the time he was off to Europe. So it's really a false portrayal of Jim Morrison. He was much funnier, much more witty. I just don't think Oliver Stone had the intellect to pull off that depth of personality of Jim Morrison. He just wanted the wild and crazy hell-bent for leather. Basically, Oliver Stone in leather pants.
As my conversation with Ray Manzarek of the Doors continues, we switch to a more pleasant subject, at least for Ray, and that is, what is your favorite Doors concert ever? Can you narrow it down to just one?
The Madison Square Garden, playing in the round center court with the flashlights going. I mean, the flash bulbs going off all the way around in the dark. We take the stage, ladies and gentlemen, the Doors, and the flash bulbs start going off, but it's still dark. And we told our light man, don't turn the lights on until we start to play the music. And it was amazing. It was like I was in outer space, standing in the middle of a universe going nova. And I just turned around 360 degrees, and I thought to myself, it ain't going to get any better than this, Ray.
Ah, yes, around 1968, 1969, there was no bigger American rock band than the Doors. As we continue our conversation with the Doors, Ray Manzarek, talk to him about one of the box sets. I say one of because they put several box sets out over the years and put alternate takes on there and demos and everything like that, and very interesting pictures, too.
I like the idea of the photos. Now, can you just tell our listeners, give a couple of examples of the great photos that may...
Well, there are photos of the Doors down in Venice, from the early days. Photos of Van Morrison and Jim Morrison on stage together at the Whiskey A Go-Go, singing Gloria.
That never happened. Come on.
Yeah. This is the beauty of it. I mean, what a great story, the Doors story. Staged together at the Whiskey. We were the opening act, then the headliner, opening act, and the headliner. So we were the house band. We played all through the summer of '66 with whoever they had brought in, and that was like, my God, Whiskey A Go-Go was Mecca. And the first week of our engagement as the house band was with Van Morrison and them. And on the last night, there was a jam session with the Doors and them, Jim Morrison and Van Morrison singing Gloria.
Oh, that is too much.
People say, was it recorded? Well, sorry, man, it wasn't. Those moments in time are not recorded.
Of course, you guys later on in your concerts did the Gloria.
Yeah. The controversial Jim's dirty version.
When you were the bass player playing bass on your keyboard, which a lot of people don't realize, it's my favorite trick trivia rock question. Ask somebody, hey, who was the bass player of the Doors? Well, they have to think, and they scratch their chin. It was Ray playing keyboard. Now, how complicated was that, especially live?
Well, it was, it's an outgrowth of piano playing. It's like, I think all piano players could do it. You play boogie-woogie. It's like, it's boogie-woogie piano. The left hand is keeping the rhythm, the right hand is doing all the filigrees. And, for me it was, you just split yourself in half. Left side goes repetition, the bass line for Light My Fire. Bum, 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 bum. The solo section, it just goes and goes and goes. To ask a live bass player to do that, the guy'd go nuts,
Because it's too simple, right?
6 notes, bum, 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 over and over and over.
While you're playing the lead, if you will, on your right hand, so the left hand is playing bass.
Left hand goes on automatic pilot.
What does your foot play, man? I thought you were playing bass in your foot.
One is on the volume pedal, and the other one's got nothing to do. I had nothing to do with the left foot, so I'd keep time with my left foot.
I could have sworn that great time you were on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was only once, right?
Right, right, only one time.
I saw your foot just going crazy down there.
Well, that's what it does. It's got nothing to do, and it just keeps it locks in with John's kick drum. So my left foot and John's kick drum are like a couple of brothers down at the bottom there.
Well, I could not have a conversation with Ray Manzarek of the Doors without having him tell that story of the censors at CBS. The one time they played the Ed Sullivan Show, this is in the late 60s, at the peak of their popularity, when everybody around the country that Sunday night was waiting to watch the Doors sing Light My Fire, and the censors said, that word, girl, we couldn't get much higher in that lyric? Can you kind of get rid of the higher? And keep in mind, a couple of years before that, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones caved to those Ed Sullivan censors and saying, let's spend some time together instead of let's spend the night together. And Ray picks up the story from there.
So the guy says, you can't say the word higher, and of course we do it anyway. And the guy comes backstage and says, you said you weren't going to, because I told him, we're not going to do it, no problem, we won't say the word higher. And then everybody looked at me and said, Ray, we got to do it. I said, of course we are. Of course we're going to do it. Just don't worry about it. When the guy comes backstage, I'll handle it. So he comes back just whining. And I said, well, we were so nervous and so excited, sir, that, and I, turned on the little boy, that we just, we've done it this way 1,000 times, and we were on Ed Sullivan Show in the national television, and it just came out. And the guy looked at me, and he knew I was lying, and he went, eh. And he turns to Morrison and said, Mr. Sullivan wanted you on the show for 6 more performances. He liked you boys. I'll tell you what, because of that, you'll never work the Ed Sullivan Show again. Morrison looks at the guy and says, hey, so what, man? We just did the Ed Sullivan Show.
That is that great comeback. I love it. And another thing, too, if you look at that performance when you guys sang Light My Fire in the Ed Sullivan Show, when Jim sings the word higher, he looks into that camera and he gives it that extra oomph, as if to tell us we're going to do this.
Hi, this is Ray Manzarek of The Doors. You're rocking with Frank Welch.